And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And a lot of exciting things happened in this past week. We'll get to all those and have some fun with them. And we have a shortened crew today, but a mighty crew indeed, as it's just me, Jeff, and Jared on the broadcast with you this morning. Case out on vacation, and Daryl lost in the woods somewhere looking for her drive off the fifth tee. We'll see how that works out for her, but we'll have some fun with it. A kind of a return to the old days back when we used to do a threesome up here on the broadcast, but we should have some great fun with it and get some things covered as far as the Cardinals' successes this week on the field of competition. We'll kind of bring it on in as we like to with the guys. Jared, have you fully recovered from yesterday's marathon of covering field hockey and then watching volleyball and then ending up at the golf house of all things?
That field hockey one's what still had me a little nervous, even playing recovery mode with post game with Coach Sarah and Maddie Tabor, and catching a little bit of volleyball before, the golf house. But all these close games, and it's every single sport other than volleyball lately. That's just like, what can we do to really give people a heart attack right now? And field hockey is no exception.
It was a thrilling contest, and double overtimes seem to be the order of the day for the Cards lately when it comes to field hockey. But as long as they're winning the double overtimes, I'm okay with that. As much as I know you and Case hate the golden goal concept,
Yeah.
if it's a win in the golden goal concept, then it's okay, right?
I don't know. I get reminded on a weekly basis how much I hate golden goal, whether we win or lose.
You just ought to put it on your license plate, Uh, Jeff McAdams in the house. Jeff is running the whole smear day. He's engineering everything. He's got everything all lined up, and he also informed me earlier this morning that he's an orphan this week, and so poor Jeff, with his family spread all throughout the wind, he and the landscaping crew outside
Yeah.
his house are forced to face the world alone.
You say I'm in the house. I'm not in my own house. I'm at my
That's
brother's
right.
house right now. Yeah, my family this is fall break for Jefferson County schools, so the kids were off. Their kids were off, so my mother took my niece up to Boston for the long weekend and doing a couple of college visits up there and seeing some of the historical things that are in Boston, of which there are many, of course. I apparently was able to pass along to them. A friend here said that there's a Quidditch league that plays on Boston Commons on Saturdays, which of course grabbed Grace's attention. She's a big Harry Potter fan, so I think they're going out to there. And then my brother and sister-in-law with my nephew Davidson went up to Chicago this weekend. Just kind of a quick trip up there to just enjoy a cool city.
So there it is. I'm surprised you're not calling us from Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, so somebody's got to take care of the dogs and cats and geckos and bring the mail in and all that stuff. So,
And that's why they have pet suites, sir.
yeah.
Drop them off and go.
Will it take care of a gecko? I mean,
Well, yeah, I'm sure they've got a corner somewhere they could
yeah.
probably just build a little cage for him and throw him
To
some
be
lettuce.
fair, a gecko is pretty easy to take care of, but yeah,
Throw him some lettuce every once in a while. He's good, right?
something like that. Yeah.
As for me, a very busy Friday for me. Started out with an eye appointment and then watched Louisville field hockey, watched Louisville volleyball, and then wandered over to my high school to watch the end of their win last night as Fern Creek defeated DeSales 28-14. Go Cards, go Cats, go Tigers! Right now, it was a great game and had ran into some old friends over there. Always have a good time doing that. But it made for a late evening, and then of course I overslept this morning and was running around like Dagwood Bumstead trying to get articles up since I conveniently remembered I had to write this morning for Case. Thanks to Jared for sending me some nice pictures, though, that I got incorporated into the article. And then with everything else, I finally jumped on here about 15 minutes ago and said, "Hey, Jeff, how are you this morning? Guess what? We're doing a radio broadcast for the podcast today." I just remembered that. No, just kidding. So yeah, a lot of fun going on as we get ready for a big women's soccer match tonight, and we'll kind of preview that and then recap some of the action that happened earlier in the week with you. But it is time for scheduling and Twitter, and since Case probably didn't want to pull over on the side of the road on his way to Myrtle Beach and do that, I wonder if he's even listening. Uh, we're going to turn it over to Jared Anderson, our number two at this. So, Jared, ball's on the tee, knock it down the middle of the fairway, pal.
Yeah, I was pulling that up while you were kind of doing the intros and realized that cross country had a meet this morning at Tom Sawyer State Park still going on, and Katie was on her way out there to go walk with a couple friends. So hurriedly texted her, "Hey, just a heads up, it's going to be a little crowded out there."
Maybe after you grabbed her and threw a jersey on her and said, "Here, run."
She's not much of a runner, but if you want something cross stitch or sewn, she's your gal.
There you go.
So that's where her talents lie. But cross country did start early this morning. The men kicked off the first portion, and then the women started a little bit ago. They haven't really posted any results as that's still continuing going on, but that's out there, EP Tom Sawyer State Park. If you're from the Louisville area, it's out there off Westport Road, so not too far from campus, about 30-minute drive or so, depending on traffic. So they were early this morning, right about the time we are getting off of our podcast here. Football's down in Winston-Salem going up against Wake Forest, and they're looking to maybe have a third straight nail biter where the defense will come in clutch, I think, here. It's a solid Wake Forest team. And then, as Paulie mentioned a little bit ago, there's a primetime game for women's soccer going up against a tough Wake Forest team as well. It is Wake Forest Hate Weekend, if you didn't figure that out, with field hockey beating the Demon Deacons yesterday. As of right now, it's slated for 7 p.m. They are going through some options of what they want to do, as the forecast looks anything but pleasant. And you can play soccer in rain, and you've seen plenty of matches before in the rain, but there's plenty of lightning that's supposed to accompany the rain tonight. So they're stay tuned to see if that may get pushed up earlier, postponed. We'll see, but either way, let's hope we can get this match in, and maybe the Cards will pull off a nice upset. Moving ahead to Sunday, October 3rd, volleyball is going to stay on the road. They've got a 1 p.m. tip-off against Georgia Tech, so that's going to be down in Atlanta. Jeff, you're not going to that, right?
Nope.
No travels for Jeff this weekend, so
got to take care of the critters. So
Yeah, Jeff gave you that Maddie Tabor short one-word answer there, Jared.
I've got like allergies are bugging me, so I had myself on mute, so I had to find the mute button real quick. Sorry.
This one should be ACC Network Extra last I saw, so you're going to want to tune in online or on the ESPN app to catch that one. I haven't seen where it may have switched over. I'd love to get some of these volleyball matches on TV with how good the Cards are. I mean, they are national championship material at this point if you haven't been following them. But we'll get into that later on in the show. Moving ahead to Monday, women's golf starts their Blessings Intercollegiate Invitational down in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Plenty of teams going to be at this invitational. It should start early in the morning, kind of be an all-day affair. Field hockey has a rare Monday evening game set for 7 p.m. Miami, Ohio. The Redhawks will be coming in town for that one. That one could also potentially change due to them having some issues with the lighting at Traeger Stadium. The one that was played yesterday against Wake Forest at the beginning of the season was slated for much later start time than 4 o'clock. They may try and keep it at 7 and get those lights cooperating, or it may get pushed up a little bit. Stay tuned. But as of right now, it is still set for 7 o'clock. Moving ahead to Tuesday, women's tennis will begin their All-American Invitational Classic. They don't really say on this one, down in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. That's a nice little area down there, too, if you've never been to South Carolina. Women's golf will continue their Blessings Intercollegiate Invitational down in Arkansas. Then we'll get to the middle of the week on Wednesday. Women's tennis continues their All-American down in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and women's golf will continue their Blessings Intercollegiate down in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Moving on to Thursday, women's tennis will still continue their All-American Pleasant, South Carolina. This is kind of like an all-week event for them, going on to all of next weekend as well. And then women's soccer will hit the road. They're they've got a Thursday night kickoff at 8 p.m. against Notre Dame up in South Bend. It looks like right now it's a regional sports network, so hopefully we'll have a little more information on where to catch that game later here in the week, and see if that one may end up on TV somewhere, or if we're gonna have to find an online link to watch that one.
Yeah, good luck with
Next Friday, yeah, it's gonna be tough getting some of these issues with the like field hockey was blacked out yesterday because of a weird TV channel thing. So
Yeah,
let's
you know it was, but they showed it on the what they call it RSN, but it's actually it used to be Fox Sports South, and now it's known as Bally Sports. Bally, I guess, buying out the rights for the ACC selected broadcast, but
But if you're on the Fox Sports app or the Bally Sports app, they both have apps, you could not find this broadcast at
oh
all.
yeah.
It did not exist on them as far as they were concerned.
I
Sorry,
guess,
I'm salty
I
because
guess,
I wanted to watch
yeah,
the end of that game.
I guess Bally's that big where they can say, field hockey, who cares? But I was able to watch it. It was on my TV here at home. I've got, of course, cable service, and I wasn't overly impressed with the play-by-play or the color announcers. Of course, obviously they were very, very much into what Wake Forest was doing and didn't care too much about the Cardinals. And that was kind of sad, really, because Louisville, as we'll talk about in just a little bit, had a great win in double overtime, but these people were more interested in talking about quilting and other things that were pastimes of the Wake Forest student athletes, if I can still use that term. I don't know, maybe just Wake Forest students. But anyway, Jared, it was there if you wanted to watch it, but I don't know. I almost decided to follow stat broadcast after a while because the announcers were driving me bonkers.
yeah, it's I'm not a big fan of some of these getting blacked out, and I understand that you have TV contracts, but come on, it's ACC. You need to have the ACC shown this either on ACC Network or Network Extra. I mean, these other regional sports networks that are coming in control that nobody has TV access to those TV channels anymore. Come on, let's do a little bit better than that. Especially a number 3 team in the country for field hockey. Come on.
I couldn't
Uh, but
agree more.
but moving ahead to Friday, so we can get close to wrapping up the week. Softball is going to start their fall season, which is all exhibitions and scrimmages. Nothing will count for the regular season schedule, but they're going to host a Bellarmine at Ulmer Stadium at 5 p.m. So that may be a good one if you can get off work a little early on Friday. Head down there for a little bit. It'll be free admission. A couple other things going on that evening as well. Swim and dive will be down in Dallas, Texas. What they've got this listed as 6:30. Let me do a little digging. So that's 6:30 Central Time. It'll be 7:30 here in Louisville time, but that is the SMU Classic. And another big event on Floyd Street. This one is not going to be free admission. So if you head over to softball, make sure you buy your volleyball tickets in advance. They do host Boston College at 7 p.m. at L&N Federal Credit Union Arena. Number 3 cards have been looking fantastic this year, and hopefully we'll see another sweep on Friday night. That'll be a big one. Get out there. And then moving ahead to next Saturday, depending on what time some of these start, women's tennis will begin their West Virginia University Invitational in Morgantown, West Virginia, as well as cross country will be at the Arturo Barrios Invitational in College Station, Texas. So both of those may begin before we start radio podcasts next weekend. But that gets us through the week. Gonna hop over to Twitter just real quick. Case is not with us today, but he does tweet out as best case scenario, BST, no E in the word best. Daryl Faust tweets out as Daryl Faust 4. Jeff tweets out with a couple Twitter accounts. His personal is at Jeff McAdams, and his UofL Women's Sports one is at Card Couple Radio. Paulie tweets out as Cardinal Couple. We got you lots of field hockey and volleyball tweets going on yesterday if you weren't tuned in. And then I tweet out as Mr. Anderson Jared, and I'll get some game photos up there here in the coming days or so. All right, 11:14. We're good to move on to the next part of the show.
Hey, there you go. As you knocked it out in fine fashion there. The Cards certainly had a very fun week this week as far as events went. And let's go ahead and just start it out with the first thing that took place, I guess, yesterday, where the Cards took to the turf at Traeger Stadium to play a little field hockey against Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons, as they were coming in for an ACC matchup. And I was just kind of looking here. You, this was written up as a Friday evening match, but it wasn't a Friday evening match. This one took place Friday afternoon. So, in any event, they did take place at Traeger. A nice crowd on hand, from what I could tell, Jared. The Cards brought in the Demon Deacons, who were a respected team, a top 20 team, and indeed decided to jump out and take the lead on Louisville early on in this one. So the Cards were kind of playing in the hole there for a little bit, but still were able to come back, tie, and then eventually win. How about Maggie Dickman for the Demon Deacons, a Louisville Ballard graduate who plays for Wake Forest? Got the first goal of the game, taking a pass and knocking it in the cage to give them the 1-0 advantage, sir.
Yeah, it's always nice to see some other local players make their way back to Traeger Stadium. When you always wish them the best, even if they go somewhere else, and maybe you don't want them to have their best performance when they play the Cards. But she certainly had a great goal there in the first half off of a kind of a long serve there from close to midfield. Caught the Cards off guard a little bit with that one, so great heads up play by her. So a little bit of a panic mode there as the Cards seemed a bit groggy, almost like they had just woken up from a nap or something there in the first half. So Coach Sowry really got on their butts there at halftime, and we were able to find the equalizer there with the Katie Schneider goal. I believe they were crediting that as still off of the corner. It was a rebound from Julie Cow-Iser's shot, and then getting over to double overtime, the game winner, which was also tied to a penalty corner that came in from Maddie Tabor. I think her fifth game winner of the season is what you had told me earlier, Paul.
Yeah.
But yeah, great crowd, 400-500 people. I mean, you can't ask for a better crowd on a Friday afternoon.
Man, you love to see that for field hockey. And speaking of Maddie Tabor, 5 goals on the season, and all 5 of her scores have been game winners. So why don't we just give Maddie the ball every time we come down on the offensive set, and she'll score, right? No.
That's what I was thinking. Just let her
Only
score
down
and
the
then walk off
stretch,
the field.
though.
You know?
Only if it's late in the game, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't. First quarter, no, Maddie, just stand over there. We'll use you later. No, certainly good.
Let her score and then just walk off the field.
Yeah,
You know?
it's over. Maddie
Done.
scored. Game. It would be fun. I'm sure Justine Sowry wouldn't mind that either. But speaking of Coach, Jared was able to do interviews with both Coach Sowry and Maddie Tabor after the game. And stop me if you've heard this before, but Coach Sowry was playing good cop, bad cop in her analysis of the game. She was very disappointed and very unhappy with the way the Cards performed in the first 2 quarters, and then said we started playing Louisville field hockey in the second half, which makes me have the question: whose field hockey were we playing in the first half? Ryder, Longwood, I don't know.
Yeah, Louisville volleyball.
Louisville volleyball field hockey. Yeah, I I don't know. Maybe we just had a bunch of players out there that were unmotivated, uninspired. I don't know how you could be, but the Cards certainly got a tough test, Jeff, from Wake Forest, who came in here and saying, hey, we're a top 20 team also. Give us a little respect here. Give us a little due here. We're going to come in here and give you guys a heck of a contest. And they certainly did in that first half.
Yeah, we've talked about it in the past plenty of times. There is no easy day in the ACC in field hockey. There just isn't at all. Everybody's good. Within the league more broadly, the ACC is not quite as dominant this year as it has been in the past, but you still got a lot of very, very good teams, and when you're playing in conference play, you've got to be at your best all the time. And it became pretty clear that this team came out and wasn't fully engaged in the game and had to kind of get notionally kind of smacked around at halftime and say, hey, get your head in the game. Let's play the way we know we can play. And we're able to get that the equalizer in the third quarter, and then that awful golden goal to overtime win. So
The Cards are 3-0 in overtime games this season.
Yeah,
And
it's been good to us, but nobody likes it.
no, everybody hates the fact that we're headed to them. And that makes them also 2-0 in double overtimes. And their last two wins have come in double overtime. So is a trend starting here? I'm not sure. I can't tell you for sure on
Hope
that.
not.
Let's hope that it isn't. Yeah, that's for sure. But in the actual contest, Jared, the Cards did outshoot Wake Forest barely, 14-13. The Demon Deacons held a 9-6 advantage in shots on goal. However, Louisville got the benefit of the penalty corners, holding a 9-4 edge, and a whopping 6 of those penalty corners came in the overtime periods. So I guess the referees decided after regulation, let's call anything and set up a corner and get this thing over with, right? Louisville eventually complied and won the game for Coach Sari. Uh, good effort by the Cards, sir. It does take them to 10-1 on the season and 3-0 in conference play, Jared. Dropping the Deacons to 4-5, 1-2 in the ACC. We'll have to see if they remain in the top 25 after this one. Uh, I don't see a whole lot that would knock them out, despite their sub 500 on the year. ACC field hockey is that good, sir.
Yeah, and I think they went into the match, if I remember correctly, ranked 15th. So a loss on the road to the number 3 team in the country typically isn't going to cause you to drop a lot. I know falling sub 500 hurts you a little bit, but I can't imagine them dropping below 2021 as of right now, honestly, especially when you look at Duke, who's 4-5 and not been performing nearly as well as Wake Forest has, in my opinion, and Duke's ranked number 20 in the country. So I'd have to assume Wake Forest stays up there, um, which also I think is their second ACC loss. So the Cards have a nice cushion over them. Um, Actually, UofL holds that top spot in the conference at 3-0. I know Syracuse is also defeated 2-0. But yeah, the nice to have the Cards up top in the ACC and holding a low advantage over the rest of the conference. And everybody else seems to be ranked, so every win in the ACC is a good win right now.
Jeff, a big game for freshman goalkeeper MDK, as I like to call her, Myler DeKyer, who had a career high 8 saves in this one. Uh, she stepped in as a freshman, sir. We didn't know about her. We didn't know what was going to happen with her, but she stood up and proved to be a very, very good goalkeeper for Louisville so far.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that as always when you have goalkeepers putting up big stats. You're like, I really wish our defensive line was doing better. But yeah, obviously a very fine game for her. That many stops is impressive against a good team like Wake Forest, of course. So definitely call out her praises. It's totally justified. And maybe give her some support and kind of get in the back line, the defensive line shaped up a little more. But yeah, it's a fantastic outing for her. It's good to see true freshman coming in, man. That's awesome.
It's got to be hard enough to be coming over here from another country like she has from the Netherlands and being a freshman, being in the university, a whole new world to her and everything. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I'm on the field hockey team and I'll have a nice season behind Sam Minrath. And what? I'm starting?
and just and I always I always think about with many of my coworkers as well is that they're dealing with all of this and interacting with people with all of this in their non-native language.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from the Netherlands, many people learn English from a very young age, so I suspect she's probably pretty fluent. But nonetheless, it's not your native language. That's an extra obstacle for it.
As long as her pads can deflect shots, I don't care if she speaks Swahili out there. That's what I'm looking for. A good
Right.
performance out of MDK. So, as Jared mentioned, the Cards get an extra day of rest. They'll come back in Monday on October 4th when the Red Hawks, Miami, Ohio, comes to Traeger. We'll kind of see how that one rolls with the weather expectations and all. But certainly nice to kind of maybe, Jared, here step out of conference for a game and kind of get some different players in there, possibly take a look at some things, although we cannot afford to overlook Miami, Ohio. They've always given Louisville quite the battles in past years.
Yeah, Miami's a solid team. They're not ranked in the top 25, but still a tough one nonetheless. It's one of the few non-ranked opponents we've got this year because right after that we hit up to Michigan, who's number 2 in the country, I believe, right now, and then on the road to Boston College, another ranked team, uh, top 10, I believe, once again. Then they stay on the road, Northeastern. I think that one's going to be another unranked opponent. And then they travel down to North Carolina and wrap up their 5-game road trip with James Madison. So it's going to be the last time to see the Cards at home in a while until Senior Day rolls around right before Halloween gets here. Um, I'm looking forward to it, although this road trip could either be very ugly or very promising for us, looking at some tough opponents. Although North Carolina is kind of that hit or miss team right now. Didn't get a chance to watch them, but saw that final score, and they got their hands beat pretty bad yesterday and dropped to 6-4 on the year. So maybe not the Tar Heel team we've seen in the past there, Paul.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising as we mentioned, you know, inserting Pam Buston in the head coaching role down there hasn't turned out. No, I'm just kidding on that. But Louisville does have a slate ahead of them that, boy, I'll tell you, it doesn't look very appealing to me. It's well, they are going to be the road warriors. Was it at Michigan, then at Boston College, and then at Northeastern, following the Boston College game on a Sunday, and then finishing up with UNC and James Madison University stepping out of conference before they finally return home here to play Syracuse on October 29th. So, boy, the Road Warriors, so let's hope that they can get out there and keep it alive, keep it winning. Certainly, it's some tough contests in that one, though, including a UNC team that I think just might be a little bit surly and a little bit spoiling for a win against Louisville after their uh, totally unexpected, dubious start to this season so far. Certainly in North Carolina, they're not used to being hung with 4 or 5 losses on their schedule. So we'll see what happens there. But let's go ahead and take it away from Traeger and let's move out of town, shall we? Let's head down to Clemson, South Carolina. No, we're not going to visit Arthur. No, we're not going to go to Tiger football. We're going to go to volleyball, where the number 3 Cards came into the gym saying, hey, guess what? We're coming down here. We don't care if you've won 6 in a row. We're down here to play volleyball. We have our camouflage unis on. Fear us. We're coming out to kick some butt. And Jeff, they certainly did, didn't they? With the straight 3-set sweep of this one, 25-16, 25-11, and 25-19.
Yeah, they surely did. I always wonder if Anna Stevenson comes into these games looking to make a point. She's nearby. She's from 60 miles away from Clemson, and just as I found out earlier, that really wanted to go play for Clemson, and they didn't recruit her. So they could have had her there. So unfortunate choice for their part. But yeah, the Louisville Cardinals come in. They're the ranked number 3 team in the nation, and came in and showed off and did what they needed to do to beat a decent Clemson team. Right? Let's not. This is not a bad team. They're not, top team in the country yet, but developing and improving with some new coaching in there. So in the past few years, so they're doing some good stuff. But they came in there, they just really dominated. They played the way that they knew they can and knew they need to get these wins. Um, Solid hitting, solid defense, solid serving, great serving. Elena Scott rattled off 4 service
Boom.
aces. This is a very well put together team. There are very few weaknesses. They make very few mistakes. They scramble well when they need to, although they don't frequently need to. So, our service game was particularly good. I thought kept Clemson out of system a lot, which when you do that, you're probably going to win the game. That's a pretty strong correlation to winning there. So, yeah, it was a great outing.
I love to see the Cards and the camouflage unis.
Yeah, I like him.
I scoured the internet this morning trying in vain to find a great picture of us in those unis down at Clemson. And obviously, the Clemson photographers were gearing up for their football game today. I didn't find a single picture anywhere, and I looked deep into the internet and stuff trying to find us in those camis. Couldn't do it. Didn't see it, unfortunately. But hopefully, maybe they'll wear them again in Atlanta. I don't know. It would be nice to see that
Yeah,
because
probably not.
they probably not. Yeah, but they certainly play well in them.
They do.
And
Yeah,
you
I
had
like
mentioned,
him.
yeah, I really do. And you'd mentioned Elena Scott, four aces for the freshman, a match high, as the Cardinals, as I like to call them sometimes, were the bullies of the block. They held Clemson to a mere .105 hitting for the match. So the Cards got this one in big fashion. But Clemson at least made it early here, Jared, a little bit with a 9-8 lead in the first set before the Cards just looked at themselves and said, okay, we're done with this. Let's get to work. Went on a 9-0 run in that first set.
Sometimes you'll see early in games and matches where teams are just trying to get a feel for one another and uh, kind of get their feet wet before building up some momentum. So I you usually don't need to fret too much with the early first set unless if for some reason you find yourself down by a large margin, maybe like an 8-2 trailing type deficit. But no, I'm not too concerned over a 9-8 deficit, as I think the Cards were just still getting in rhythm. It took them a minute there to figure out what they wanted to go with and how Clemson was. And I mean, beyond that, they went on a huge run to really blow it open in the first set, and then dominated the second set, and then a really comfortable lead on the third set to get that win. So once you got past those early points, I mean, it was just I would want to say it was just smooth sailing for the Cards, rolling on all cylinders and looking like the number 3 team in the country, if not a number 1 or number 2 team in the country.
Jeff, I got a nice text from our reader and commenter, Arthur, who
Hmm.
lives in Greer, South Carolina, not too far, about an hour out of campus, I think, who and with his wife B went down to watch the volleyball match in preparation for the football game Clemson has down there today, but went to the match and he texted me and said, if this is not the number 1 team in the country, I haven't seen one.
Yeah.
And then later on, he texted me 2 words, and a beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Arthur quite impressed with this Cardinal volleyball team, and certainly they came in and just really took care of business and eliminated kind of any doubt that Clemson, who was I know upset minded, was going to pull one off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I'm so glad that Arthur and B were able to make it to the match. I know they enjoy volleyball. I think they've expressed some frustration with the Clemson program, but I do see the program improving. So I'm hopeful for them to see improved play out of them in the years to come. It's definitely an improving team. You know, you see it year over year. There's a little bit of improvement every year. Takes a while to build up a program. If you don't have that reputation, it's harder to get the good recruits in. If you don't have the good recruits, it's harder to get winning. You don't get winning, you don't get that reputation. So it's a cyclical thing. It takes a little while to get through it. So um, what I always look at is what are they doing year over year and kind of keeping an eye on it. So and you know, I look to teams like Notre Dame, and I've been saying for the past couple of years, yeah, they keep getting better, they keep getting better, and then this year it's like, well, maybe not. But then they go and knock off Georgia Tech last night. So maybe so. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Notre Dame. So that consistent improvement is what's nice to see, unlike Notre Dame doing crazy stuff. So
It's a tough one to call.
yeah,
Absolutely, it is, and
nobody knows what to make of Notre Dame this year.
yeah, that we know Pittsburgh's good.
Yep.
Notre Dame's been good in past years, and I couldn't help but think, looking at that arena last night in the Clemson, it reminded me of the time the Cards played Notre Dame at Sacred Heart.
Mhm.
Remember when we had the power outage?
Yeah, I
That
wasn't able to make it to that, but yeah.
yeah, that gymnasium they had down there uh, on campus for Clemson. I can't think of the name of it right now, unfortunately.
Jersey, something like that.
Jordan or something. It almost rhymes with. It's almost you when you look at it the first time. It looks like Jersey. Arena,
Yeah,
but it's Jordan or something. Does look a lot like Sacred Heart's gym. And so I'm
huh.
kind of thinking to myself,
They need to raise the roof, is what they need to do.
yes, they do.
Roof is
That's
too low.
for sure. They do indeed. But 13-0 for the Cards. This is the Cards not quite halfway through their season yet. Of
Jervy
course,
is what it is with a V.
Jervy. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay. It's not Jersey, it's Jervy.
yeah.
Uh, October still to go for Louisville volleyball, and of course, then a full month of November as well. So we're not quite at the halfway point of the season. 13-0. I'm gonna pose you guys just a quick question here, a little bit about Louisville volleyball. If you had to take a look and say, okay, this is my MOP of the season so far, my most outstanding player, and you were assigned the task of naming one, Jared, where would you go on this?
Man, that's a tough question there because there's a few players that I would argue could be your most outstanding player. I think you're in terms of most well-rounded, kind of capable of doing anything would be Anna DeBeer. You can throw her front row for kills, back row kills, or digs. She can kind of just put her play wherever you put her. But also, what Amaya Tillman's been able to do, just disrupting opposing offenses with the her blocks and just her presence there has been incredible. And then Anna Stevenson has really blown up, which I thought she had a great year last year as well. And she's been a strong presence both offensively and defensively. So to me, I would argue that any three of those could be your most outstanding player right now.
Yeah, three good options for sure. All right, Jeff, the gun's on you. You've got to pick one.
Yeah, it's I do have similar sentiments in that. I think you can look at the whole A team. Both Anna's, Amaya, and Aiko are all big, strong contributors. And a lot of these, like if you look at football, most valuable players, most outstanding players, they tend to look at the quarterback because they're kind of the running the team, and then the comparison there would be Tori Dilfer in our case, and certainly would be a strong contender for it as well. Not just in her role as a setter, but also a great server. Um, I would probably go with, if I had to pick one, I would probably go with Anna Stevenson. But it would be close between her and Tori. Um, I will say the most surprisingly valuable player has been Elena Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah,
her freshman
yeah,
debut has been nothing but incredible, coming in, taking over the libero role, and putting her mark on it and saying, "This is mine, coach. I'd like to start here. Thank you. I'm going
yeah,
to do my best for you." And she has done that. As for me, it's a clear choice for me. Most valuable player, CC Rush, gets my vote for coming on. No, very, very valuable off the bench for the Cards and does a good job with serving and such. But for me, it's clear cut. You know, last year, Iko Jones was feared by the entire league and by the rest of NCAA Division One volleyball for what she could do this year. Although still formidable, although still doing a lot of great things on the court for the Cards, Anna DeBeer has really blossomed from her freshman year to her sophomore year, and I think it's become the one that the Cards go to for the big kill, the big hit, and also.
yeah.
Uh,
To some degree, that's left side versus right side too.
yeah, and it
Um,
is. Yeah.
Aiko, I don't think has reduced her contribution at all. I think she's every bit as much of a player as she was last year. I think the rest of the team has built up around her to equal and spread that out. I love our spread offense. We've got so many weapons out there on the floor that it allows other players to get involved and do more. And I think it looks like Aiko may be doing less because she's just one weapon among many now, more than there was maybe a couple years ago. So yeah, it's yeah, there's so many players you can point out as making big contributions to this team.
There are indeed, and the thing about it is, if somebody isn't quite getting it done out there, if somebody's having kind of a hard go of it out there and not really playing up to the way that we're used to seeing them play, Daddy can look down the bench and kind of say, okay, well,
Yeah,
she did pretty good last game, or she had a really good game 2 or 3 games back. Let's bring her in and see what she can do.
Yeah,
And
there is a lot of depth. I mean, and we saw even a little bit of it last night near the end of the play. You saw Brooke Smith come in off the bench, who doesn't get a whole lot of playing time, but she's a solid outside hitter. Came in and put down a couple of big kills and contributed there. I mean, we can go to the bench and pull in players off the bench and not lose that much. It's exciting.
it is indeed for the Cards. And I think one of the things that I like most about this Louisville volleyball team is even though they may have every once in a while just kind of a brief uh-oh moment where they didn't do something quite well, uh, they bounce right back and
Yeah.
they come back in. And I think maybe in the back of their mind, they're still thinking about the way that they had to bow out of the NCAA tournament last year
Mm.
with that fantastic run that was put against them to knock them out of the tournament. And maybe that's a little bit in the back of their mind, sir, as they're thinking to themselves,
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think they have many of the people on this team have a lot of that the compare and contrast experience. The exit last year versus Washington, and compare that to the big win over Texas, where they were down and had struggled, and were able to hold it together and keep it together and put together their play and come back and win that match. And probably the biggest upset of that whole tournament, and certainly the biggest upset in UofL play. To see both of those and use those as object lessons going. If we keep it together, if we stay composed and play, just keep playing, tear off the rearview mirror, right? Make a bad play, okay, tear it off and move forward. You can make great things happen and overcome that.
certainly the Cards have proved that they can certainly do that season. So, hey, Jared, I know it's sometimes not in the best interest to look too far ahead, but 3 weeks from now on a Sunday, we bring in Pittsburgh. And I think this is the one that a lot of the Cardinal fans and ACC fans in general are looking at as a matchup saying, wow, both of these teams are
In
still stay.
NCAA fans, this is across the whole country. People are going to be watching this game.
Okay, if that's your terminology, that works for me. You're the
Yeah,
volleyball expert here.
yeah.
I
It's
mean,
it's going to be a big game.
I don't know how much they're worried about it in Santa Clara, but okay, let's go ahead and make a generality.
Yeah.
NCAA fans, indeed. Louisville versus Pittsburgh. So, Jared, we got a few games before this year. We certainly have to take care of business at Georgia Tech. Syracuse comes in. They've been good in past years, but the 24th, Sunday, Pittsburgh. This could be an epic one.
Yeah, you don't want to look too far ahead and overlook several other teams beforehand. Georgia Tech, Boston College, Syracuse, VT, Wake, Virginia, all kind of coming up before then, because the last thing you want to do, look ahead, and then you get upset along the way somewhere. There's somebody that you shouldn't, and it kind of disrupts your season a little bit. But as you said, and as Jeff mentioned, this is a number 2 versus number 3 team in the country. Anybody who associates themselves with NCAA volleyball is going to be tuning in to check this one out, because you're looking at 2 of the top teams in the country, and you could easily argue that the winner of this deserves that number 1 spot over Texas. It's still a few weeks away, but it's hopefully circled in bright red and highlighted and everything else for a Sunday noon start time. And I think this may be one that will find its way onto a TV channel, just being enough of a high tier primetime game.
Jeff, when you look at this team this year, if there was if you were going to be critical, what's one thing that the Cards could do better right now than they're doing?
Uh, that's a tough question.
Yeah, I threw
Yeah.
you a curveball. Yeah.
Holy cow! I mean, this team really, even on some of the volleyball boards and stuff that everybody's going, there's just no weaknesses in this team. Um, I, there's an oddity in the way we handle out of system setting sometimes. Um, this is so incredibly nitpicky. We've got Elena Scott out there as our libero. Elena Scott played setter in high school and in club ball, right? She is a very good setter. Um, Arguably, maybe the second best setter on the team. Maybe not, but we could have that discussion at least. Um, when Tori gets the dig, so you have to have somebody else set the ball. frequently Alexa Hendricks will take it, who does not have any experience in the setter role. I kind of think like generally Elena should be taking that and doing that setting with her experience and her skills in that role. That is phenomenally nitpicky.
Yeah, oh
um,
yeah. Yeah,
but
I threw it out
it's
there
about the
purposely.
only thing that I found that I'm going, I think maybe I would change that. Yeah, it's amazing.
And I'll jump in. My major complaint is we haven't seen the swim team this year at a
Yeah,
Louisville volleyball.
for sure. Yeah, they weren't out there for the Kentucky match, which is one of the
That's one thing that they
common
could do a
things.
lot better. Is
Yeah,
show off, and I'd love to see that because we've got women's basketball out there, we've got women's soccer out there, we got a lot of other sports showing up. Come on, Arthur, let's get
yeah,
in gear here. Let's get your troops over there.
I'm
Okay.
expecting them to show up either for the pit match on October 24th, or they
yeah.
may come out for, just because of our history with Notre Dame and loving the 5 sets, they may come out for senior day, senior night against Notre Dame right there over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah,
I
very,
do
very
want
possible.
to point out one thing with this pit game on the 24th. And like you said, I don't want to look past, particularly, I don't want to look past Georgia Tech tomorrow.
No.
Georgia Tech's a very good team. But this pit game on the 24th, it's, a current number 2 versus current number 3. Obviously, we've talked about that, how that's a big game. That will also be our 20th game of the season. If we're still undefeated by that point, which I think we very easily can be, if we beat Pitt, that is a 20-0 start for us. That matches, as Jared was researching the other day, and I think they commented on the broadcast, on one of the previous broadcasts, that matches the best start ever, would match the best start ever for the UofL volleyball team in the schedule.
And if I remember correctly, and I think I heard this somewhere, even with that 20-0 start we had back then, we weren't the top 5 team.
No, I think we ended up around 6th or something with that.
So
But
what
but it
kind of
wasn't good.
volleyball were they playing back
Yeah.
then when they could look at a team that's 20-0 and go, "Yeah, you're not quite top 5."
It was, that was back in the day when Louisville didn't have that tradition and reputation, and that it just becomes harder to climb those ranks when you don't have that. So, and now we're
And we
starting
also
to-
didn't play as many ranked opponents. You didn't go on the road to play Nebraska or a
Right.
top-ranked Kentucky team or Xavier or
Purdue.
Purdue. I mean, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking at the wrong team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played tougher opponents now too, which helps because the Big East wasn't exactly known as a strong volleyball conference. There were great teams in volleyball for the Big East, but just overall not a strong volleyball conference.
Right.
That is true for sure. We do have a much higher RPI type schedule these days.
Particularly this year.
Yes.
Yeah,
Indeed.
the ACC this year looks really good on a national level.
And then you look at knocking off Kentucky and Nebraska,
Right.
back boom boom like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. I
Yeah,
thought that was
Kentucky,
pretty nice.
Nebraska, and Purdue all within 8 or
Yeah.
9 days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Those were all big.
So certainly fantastic on that. So let's hope that the guards can keep it going on the court out there as they travel down to Atlanta, Georgia, to the Flats to take on a very good and not to be underestimated Georgia Tech team coming up Sunday. So let's hope that they can get that W and head back home safely, for sure. Let's go ahead and bounce back over to the Belknap campus again as the Louisville women's soccer team, after nearly a week off, will return to action tonight when they bring in, guess who? Wake Forest. Who else would it be? It's Wake Forest week on campus. If you see a Demon Deacon somewhere, shake his hand and welcome him to town. This one, we'll see. It's scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. We'll see how that kind of works out with the weather situation and stuff. Let's hopefully they can get underway without any lightning strikes and such. You can catch this one on the ACC Network Extra, where I think probably Jeff Greer and Casey Whitfield again.
Yeah, Jeff Greer tweeted out earlier about that, so I assume him and Casey are still manning that.
It's because I know
They've been doing
sometimes
most of them.
sometimes it's Dimling too. So
Yeah, Devlin's more field hockey than he
yeah,
is.
he's been doing a lot of field hockey too.
soccer.
Yeah. Okay.
But certainly 2 good announcers or 3 good announcers, however you look at it, for this one tonight. If you can't get out there, certainly it would not be a waste of time for you to watch it on your laptop or whatever, the Network Extra. The Cards come into this one, guys. It's a 6-2-1 overall record. They are 2-1 in ACC play. Wake Forest, no slouch. They're coming in here 10-1, Jared. A little bit of maybe fear and trepidation here about this Wake Forest team, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I would be, just because to me, UofL women's soccer hasn't really proven themselves as a great team yet. They've had some solid wins, and they've shown they can put up a fight when need to, especially with the strong Michigan team. They went down and found a way to come back and take down Miami. Uh, they had a great first half against Florida State, but they're missing. I think they've been having some issues on transitions, kind of getting back on defense is where they've been getting burned a lot, but also just having people who can be a little bit more of a consistent score. There's a lot of scorers on the team, but they kind of come and go in waves, and you'll see someone will score and get a couple goals in a match or score in back-to-back matches, and then they just go stone cold quiet for the next 4 or 5 matches. And you've got to find someone who you can rely on to get that goal in tight squeeze, like when they were playing Florida State, and it just never happened.
Yeah, that 3-0 win by the Seminoles over us probably could have been more than that, but the Cards kind of had a hiccup there for about a 12-minute stretch. Played good defense the rest of the way, and consider this, Jeff. Louisville has outscored opponents this year 20-13,
Mhm.
and they've actually outshot opponents 131-100 on the season, despite the you know a 6-3-1 record, which is not bad. We've seen obviously worse over the years, but this Wake Forest team comes in here, buddy. I'll tell you what, the only blemish on their record was losing to number 7 Virginia, and that actually happened on their home field. But they knocked off Boston College. They knocked off Syracuse. They lead the ACC with shots per game, and their 431 shot accuracy mark is pretty high up there as well. So, uh, looks like the Cards are going to be back on their defensive heels again this week.
Yeah, and it's interesting because at least early on in the season, soccer was scoring in buckets, and we've seen that kind of fall off a little bit as we've gotten into ACC play. It's maybe a better caliber of team. ACC certainly has good soccer, so Wake's coming in here. They're a high powered team. They're always good. They're always among those ACC teams near the top. So you gotta make sure you put everything together and show up on the field. Could be a dicey one from a weather situation tonight. We'll see what happens. The seating area at Lynn is covered, so if you want to come out, it's nice way to enjoy a game. The players get soaked, but you don't necessarily in the stands. So, yeah, we just hope for no lightning, right?
No, I mean, I could come sliding through a big water puddle on the sidelines,
Splash
but
it out there.
still. Anyway, Wake certainly will be a tough team to score on. Their goalkeeper, Caitlin Parks, leads the ACC with a .960 save percentage. She's recorded 7 shutouts this year as well. So once you get past that defensive line, you still got to deal with Parks in the goal. So good luck to the Cards on that. Taking a look here, guys, real quick at the series history. Louisville is 2-3-1 all time against Wake, but they have won the last 2 matches against the Demon Deacons, and Wake basically blew the Cards out of the water the first 3 times they met, outscoring Louisville a total of 9-1 in those 3 games. All 3 of those, consequently, were played at Winston-Salem. So maybe the Cards, in order to beat Wake, simply just need to play them at a Lynn Stadium, Jared.
Yeah, let's. I just want to come out and get a win. I don't care if it rains, if it's sunny, if it's snowy, whatever. Let's get a win against Wake Forest, who's a pretty solid team, especially with a 10-1 mark in play. And what would that get us? I think 9 points up to 9 points in ACC play at that point. So I would certainly like to get a win if possible.
This will
Our,
be a
our, our,
fun
need,
one.
our needs are simple. Just score more than the other guys.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Jeff
just go
Walls.
the Jeff Walls route.
Right?
Thank you, Jeff Walls, for chipping in here.
Yeah.
The last time out, back in 2019, the Cards actually fell behind to the Demon Deacons at Lynn Stadium, 1-0, but got the equalizer win Allison Whitfield, I know she'll remember this game for a while, had a free kick from outside the box. It kind of fell in between the goalkeeper's gloves for Wake Forest, and Raven Alexander was there to tap it in to tie it up. And then, of course, the game winner came by Menakic in the 68th minute, taking a free kick outside the box, sailing it over the Wake Forest defender's head and into the goal for a 2-1 lead and win for the Cards last time out. So I know they'll probably ask dear Allison a little bit about that one as they go on with the broadcast today. I'm sure it's one she won't forget for a while. But let's face it, and you guys nailed it right. You do have to score more than win, and we haven't been doing that quite to the extent of how I think the fans would like to see us do that. Hopefully tonight we can break loose a little bit and get a W and get some points on the board, guys.
Let's score a bunch of goals. We're due for a high scoring affair. We've scored 7 in the last 3 matches, 8 in the last 5 matches. We kind of need to get that back up again. We look great to start the year. You know, the 2-0 win, 6-2 win, 4-3 win, 3-0 win, and then we just went cold after that. So we need to find that offensive rhythm again.
Certainly hoping that Brooke Dardano, Delaney Snyder, and company can kick successfully and kick on the goal and kick into the goal tonight for the Cards. 7 p.m. at Lynn. Come on out. It's free admission for Louisville women's soccer. In the final remaining minutes of the broadcast here, guys, we did find out yesterday something that I always have a great time at. I'm sure Jared does, and I think Jeff has in past years as well, where the University of Louisville women's basketball team has announced that they are going to have their tip-off luncheon coming up. A fun affair for everybody as we go to these each year. A little bit different this year as far as the venue. They're going to move this away from the Marriott, where we've seen quite a few of these over the past few years, and take it to the Galt House in their big grand ballroom up there on the second floor. Jeff, these are always so much fun, and when we get to see Jeff Walls in a different outfit every year, it's one of the truly most enjoyable events I look towards each year.
Yeah, they are really fun. It's an opportunity to meet the players on the team. They all come. They can. Sometimes they have classes they can't get away from, which is fair. But usually, nearly all of them are there, and dressed up and looking nice, which is always fun too. But it's the first opportunity to look at the team kind of put together for the year and an introduction to new players. Usually, there's one or two that surprises the crowd that they didn't know about, whether they're a walk on joining the team or something like that. But it's the first opportunity to meet them. Usually have some sort of couple of questions for a couple of them. Have some Walls gets up there and gives his spiel. It's great. It's an opportunity to mix and mingle with some of the other fans. It's fun. It's always a fun time to take a long lunch and go do that. And I'm looking forward to it. Got my tickets already ordered, so I'll be there. So look forward to it.
You can get those through gocards.com, and they are $35 a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get together a group of 10, you can get a table for 10. But go to gocards.com and /WBB tip-off to order those. $35 a pop. Like I said, this usually sells out, so first come, first serve. Make sure and jump in there and get those. The doors open at 11:30. Usually we'll kind of get up there around 11 or so and kind of mingle with the incoming crowd. Coach Wall sometimes will give kind of an impromptu press conference before he goes in with the media outside the actual banquet hall. And certainly just great to see everybody dressed up, the players all dressed up. And Jared, I'm going to miss Erica Carter, because of the way that she would get up there and do some of the interviews with some of the players, and the way she would ad lib up there. She was so much fun.
AC had a great personality, very fine public speaker. She's comfortable speaking and with anybody and everybody, and she's one of those people that I joke about that could go and make friends and conversation with a Wall if they wanted to.
Yeah. And the Wall walk away laughing.
Yep.
Yeah. Good to see her. I haven't kept up with her too much lately. Not sure if she's overseas playing ball or what's going on with her, but certainly was a fun person to be around. As you'll see the Cards this year dressed in their finest out there for this one. And Walls, see, I think last year he was, or was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago. I didn't have it
2 years
last year.
ago, excuse me. Yeah, last year we did not have one of these. 2 years ago had that red checkered kind of blazer on,
Yeah.
and very very interesting coat for Coach. Of course, he never wears a tie with him, and I don't expect him to. But he looked good in that thing. I'd like to get a jacket just like it. I don't think I could wear yours, Jeff. It's just maybe a little too small for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I doubt he'd give it to me anyway. But so
Get one.
yeah, just maybe I could, maybe I'll find one somewhere. We'll see what happens. But doors do open at 11:30. Event begins at noon, and it's really not bad fare for a banquet. At least it wasn't at Marriott. We'll see how that translates out to the Gold House, because we used to have them there years ago
Mm-hmm.
at the Gold House before they bounced over to the Marriott. But it's
Yeah,
back.
Called House. It was at KFC Yum Center one year. It's been a few different
Even
places.
yeah, at Executive West, if you'll remember back,
Yeah,
they had it.
back in the early days.
Yeah, back in the real early days back there,
Yeah,
when they had it there. But
whatever
it's
it's called now. It's not Executive West anymore.
no. What is that at there? Crown Point or something? I can't remember. I don't get out that way very often. But certainly we've had some fun experiences with those over the years, and you'll see some of the Cardinal Couple crew out there. I don't know if Jared will be able to spring away to get to that or not. I know Jeff, you usually take a long lunch for that.
Yeah.
Daryl likes to pop up on those, and Sony and I will be in attendance as well. So looking.
I'll be tuning in from afar at work for me.
I would just simply tell your boss I got to go feed Freddie Farm Bureau. I'll be back in a couple hours. Leave the office and head downtown instead of going out to the Fair and Exposition Center. Yeah, I think you could get away with that, and I'll sign a note attesting to that's what you did in case there's anything that comes up with that. Uh, all right, so let's go ahead and roll on into final thoughts on that. Jeff, what you got for us?
Yeah, so I've been kind of a little more this year than I usually do, paying attention to the overall NCAA broad across the full league volleyball results. Partly because it's just been chaos, and that has continued into this weekend. Calling out a couple of matches that happened yesterday. Purdue lost to unranked Illinois, number 4 Purdue. Number 9 Baylor lost to unranked Texas Tech. They have to play them again, by the way, and I think today. Creighton, number 16, lost to unranked St. John's. And then Georgia Tech, we referenced earlier, number 18, lost to unranked Notre Dame in a reverse sweep. So, I mean, this is just rankings are chaos. So it's been entertaining to watch. And generally, the ACC is coming out looking really good out of all this chaos. So let's bring it on. The more chaos, the better.
Chaos is the rule of the day.
Yeah.
And we're certainly getting a lot of it, that's for sure, in the world of volleyball. And I'll think to a certain extent in some other sports as well. But the madness, let it continue. Jared, final thoughts?
Not much for me. Just hoping that all our fall teams can continue their success that they've been having and get plenty of wins, as postseason is not too far in the distance anymore. We're quickly approaching that area.
Indeed. As for me, final thoughts, I'm going to extend a rare congratulations to the NCAA. I don't do this very often, but they finally decided that the women's basketball tournament each year can now officially be known as March Madness. For years, they couldn't. For years, this was strictly a men's terminology only. Well, gee, guess what? They're playing in a tournament. It's postseason. There's 64, 68 teams, whatever have you. there's no difference except for the gender out on the court. So NCAA, why could that not be March
Yeah.
Madness as well?
There is a little bit of dose of congratulations on doing the very least possible that you could do so far.
It's like
But
congratulations, you only
hopefully,
woke up a half an hour late. That
hopefully it's just the start of what they do. But
uh,
yeah, we'll see.
and so yeah, congratulations, you woke up a half an hour late, but the bus is waiting for you. You might as well climb on. Uh, we can't normally bring out a lot of positive things that the NCAA does, but this is one of them. And certainly, I know that the broadcasters of the land, when it comes to March, when it comes to tournament time for the women, will rejoice in being able to use that term, March Madness. So, how about that? And let's hope we don't have to wait another 6 months for the NCAA to do something nice. Okay. But it has been a great show today. I want to thank everybody for listening. We'll certainly catch you here again next week, 11 a.m., unless you know something we don't, for another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. Everybody have a great Saturday and weekend.